Greetings YouTube. Now, I've been fortunate over the years to have driven lots of wonderful cars from the turn of the last century, seven-figure cars, or maybe seven-figure car, and some phenomenal vehicles. But today, I bring you probably the rarest car I've ever driven. And that car is this, a 1987 Vauxhall Astra 1.3 automatic. Not the most necessarily accurate of sources, but according to how many left as of last year, there were only 2 of these on the road. So this and one other car. So why is it so rare? It's just a Mark II Astra. Base spec, small engine, 3-speed automatic box. Well, it's so rare for that very reason. People didn't save them. GTEs, SRIs, they've all been saved. These base spec cars, they haven't. And this one's in lovely condition. 54,000 miles, just short 55,000 miles. Bright red. It's obviously had a bit of work done over the years. It's the odd little ding and dent. But it's a lovely little car. 5-door hatch. And that's about it really. The Mark II Astra, like this, came about in 1984, I think, and went on to about 91, thereabouts. The Astra itself was launched in 79 and is still in production today with the Mark 7, I think we're on now. But this is a Mark II, 1.3, it's the S engine, overhead cam, and here's the engine. And there is a little 1.3 overhead cam S series engine. Distributor cap on the side there, airbox there, everything nice and easy to get to. Plenty of space to work. Steering rack back there. Lovely little car. Lovely little car to work on. Easy to work on. Great motors. It's a 3-speed hydromatic, something like that. Automatic gearbox. The engine is 75 horsepower, and I think it's about 101 foot-pounds of torque, but I'm not 100% certain. But again, it's quite a light. It's 1,200 kilos, something like that. It's not the heaviest curb weight. No, sorry, it's less than that actually. Curb weight is 880 something kilos. I mean, the performance is slow. It's actually, I have it written down here. Performance is 105 mile/hour top speed with a 12.4 seconds to 60. Oh, and it's 74 pound-feet of torque and 75 horsepower. With 41 mpg. What I will add a little caveat to that, those performance figures are for a manual. I could not find any performance figures for an auto. And believe me, it is definitely slower, certainly in 60 than 12.4 seconds. But they got good fuel economy. It's a CD factor of 0.3 CD, which is good even today. Said they're quite a light car. By modern standards, size-wise, it's probably about the same as a modern Corsa rather than an Astra. But there's a lot of space inside. It runs on little 165 8013 tyres, which were quite big for its day, but you know, again, quite small nowadays. But it's a good, honest, basic little car. and I actually really like it. But let's show you around inside. Well, inside it's quite basic. We have keep fit windows. We have the keep fit windows. We have very basic inside here. Air vents, little quartz clock, medium wave and long wave radio, no cassette in this vehicle, basic heater controls, an ashtray that I'm not going to try and force open, and your 3-speed box. Your dash is again quite basic. We just have water temperature, fuel and speedo, along with a few warning lights. Your headlights is there, the lovely buzzer, and for the dome light you pull it out. Dimmer for the dashboard, fog lights, and that's about it. Hazard lights up there, and that is really it. Indicators and wipers. It doesn't really get much more basic unless you go for a Land Rover or something. Now in the back, it gets even more basic. We have, you know, reasonable legroom. As I said, these are not small inside like modern cars. Headroom's perhaps a bit tight. Little twiddly ashtray and keep fit windows. Now into the boot, like so. Oh, gas struts on this one are a bit tired, but we have a reasonable size boot here. Parcel shelf is missing in this one, but yeah, you know, reasonable load. What's interesting on these is all the lights are controlled by these pins on the boot, which make contact with those down there, and that controls all your lights. Said reasonable size boot, and this was Normand Limited at Heathrow. So, in the beast. Starts up nicely, into drive, and away we go. Trying to avoid all the big holes and puddles, but right, now we're on a bit of paved surface. Actually drives quite nicely, as the gear changes, it changes up far too quickly. You're in top gear by sort of 20 mile an hour. Oh, right, floor it. No urgency, 20. Alright, 30 mile an hour under hard acceleration, we're in top gear. Or hard for this. But you know, it's not a major issue, because if you need to accelerate quick, well, you just drop it down into seconds, manually drop it down into seconds, and then it's quite peppy, and it will pull away quite well. It's no speed demon, but it is peppy. I like the word peppy. Peppy works well for me. So let's just get out of this little side road.
just over 20 mile an hour, so it's no speed demon. But as I said, if I want to go fast, just drop it down into second, and then it's no speed demon, but it's got a reasonable turn of speed. One thing you've got to watch is there's no indent between drive and neutral. So if you're doing that, it's very easy to knock it past drive and up into neutral instead, which is not ideal. But the steering is actually quite nice. You certainly don't miss not having power steering. The steering is very light, very reasonably precise. You've got a good feel to it. There's no play there, you know. It's not bad at all. So brakes all right. Don't take too much pressure. They're quite linear in their response. That's not bad. And even to be fair, they're at slow speeds. The steering is actually remarkably light. You really don't miss the lack of power steering. This is only on 165 tyres, which probably helps a lot. And just cruising along here at 30 through this village. It's nice and quiet. The seats are actually very comfy, and a nice bit of side support, which is a surprise on a low spec car like this. You don't expect side support like this until you start getting into more sporty cars. Although obviously the SRIs and the GTEs did have much more bucketed seats than these, but these are surprisingly supportive. When these cars were new, they were actually one of the most stolen vehicles in the UK, and you can see why, because the security measures are pretty much non-existent. You know, you can basically break into one of these things with a bit of bent wire, but they handle quite well for the period. They are quite nippy, and especially if you went for a 1.6 or better still the 2 litre 16 valve GTE, but even a 1.6 would be quite nice. And this honestly is perfectly adequate in speed for modern day traffic. I would happily use this as an everyday car. It's comfortable, it's spacious, it's in the rear. It's actually more spacious than a lot more modern vehicles. Visibility is excellent because, like a lot of small cars, a lot of old cars, sorry, the pillars are nice and narrow, so you've got excellent visibility, next to no blind spots. Very good. Now, fine, if you roll the car, you're dead. You know, just don't roll the car. I'd forgotten just how good these were to drive. I've driven lots of them, as I've said. Astra Max van I had for a long while, and ex-girlfriend had a GTE, and you know, I've driven and been in several other of the hatch and the Belmont saloon version. I genuinely believe these are a far better vehicle than the Escorts of the time. I can feel the hate from the Ford fans coming already. So, pulling away, there's 20, 30, in the top, 40, 45, 50, 55, and there's 60. So, it's not quick. If I'd wanted to go quicker, as I said, I could have dropped it down in the second, but just leaving it in drive, that's how it is. It's not quick, but if we're honest, it's no slower than my Land Rover. I am very impressed with this car. I've forgotten just how good these cars actually are. And especially with of this particular example, it's in lovely condition. It needs a few little jobs here and there, but you know, it's an old car. But you can go to pretty much any show in the country and it is highly unlikely you will be parking next to another Mark II Vauxhall Astra 1.3 automatic. But no, as I said, the big surprise is I've forgotten just how good these really are. Lovely weighted steering. You forget with modern electronic power steering just how good non-assisted steering can feel. I can feel everything the car is doing. Oh dear, and now we've got a big puddle. Let's sorry Dean, your car's got dirty. So in conclusion, I'd happily have this as my everyday car, as I've said. It's reasonably quick. It's very comfortable actually. It handles nicely. The steering is as I said, you forget just how good non-assisted steering was. And you don't miss the power assistant. As I said, the only thing is perhaps it could do with a bit more torque for the automatic gearbox. I think a 1.6 with the auto would be a far different car. But as I said, as long as you don't mind dropping it down in the second manually, then this is perfectly good. So yeah, I believe this car will be up for sale soon, if it isn't already by the time this video comes out. And it's probably a good job I haven't got any money, because I could be sorely tempted if I'm entirely honest. I've had Astras for years, or up until recently, as company vehicles. I had them from the Mark II right through to the Mark VI. I've driven Mark Is and Mark 7s, but only over short periods. And I firmly believe the Mark IV was the last Astra I liked. The Mark Vs and the Mark VIs I just didn't like. But my favourite has always been the Mark II. Possibly a bit of nostalgia. You know, it was around at the time when I was young, in my teens and 20s, and you know, having the time of my life. It was, you know, so possibly a bit of nostalgia. But after driving this around for a little while, I've fallen back in love with them again. They are a great car, and actually I'm a little sorry I'm giving this one back. So anyway, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in a future video. Ta-da!